So let's compare a sample statistic versus a population parameter. So a parameter is a numerical characteristic of the entire population. And a statistic is a numerical characteristic of our sample. Okay, so let's say, just so you guys know, the population parameter is that 49.6% of the world is female. And I need to pick a sample that's representative. Would our class be a good sample? Well, no, our class would not be a good sample, right? Because it's 100% men. If you include me, it's still like 99% male, right? And we're off by quite a great percentage, right? Almost 50%. So we wouldn't be a good representative sample. A main concern of statistics is how accurately a statistic estimates a parameter, okay? And for that, we need to be sure we pick a representative sample. So, for each of the following situations, let's describe the population being studied and identify some population parameters that would be of interest. Now, I'm just going to mention a few population parameters. There are probably no right or wrong answers, but there's so many different things you can study. So let's take a look at this. Let's say you work for Farmers Insurance and you've been asked to determine the average amount paid to accident victims in cars without side impact airbags. So our population being studied would be those who were in car accidents who have cars without side impact airbags. Okay? And we want to know the amount paid to accident victims. So what are some parameters that would be of interest? Of course, the average amount paid to accident victims in these vehicles would be our main piece of data, but there's also some other pieces of data we might want to collect, right? Age plays an important factor, right? If you're under 30, you're more likely to be in a car accident than someone who's over 30. Unless you hit like 70, then I think you're more able to get in an accident. All I'm saying is my dad is a bad driver. So, age, that's important. Maybe like the year of your car, right? Because older cars didn't have as many safety features. Now some cars do still come without side impact airbags, but not all. You might want to see if the car was totaled, because if the car was totaled, they're going to have to pay out more. You might want to see if anyone was injured, right? So these are just some different data that we could collect. Next, let's take a look. So you've been hired by McDonald's to determine the weights of the potatoes delivered each week for French fries. I'm going to say like the total weight, not like the weights of the individual potatoes. That'd be a little silly. So the population being studied is the weekly potato delivery, and the parameter is the weight of the weekly potato delivery, right? Another thing you might want to look at, just to make sure you have seen all the sides of this data, you might want to say what the projected sales are, like how much money do they expect to make. I'm sure they make a lot more money when it's nice out than if it's like raining. I'm sure they make a lot more during weeks where school's in session than versus like maybe the holidays, or maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But so projected sales could be something else, another type of data we'd want to look at. All right. The U.S. Labor Department defines the civilian labor force as those people who are either employed or actively seeking employment. Keep that in mind, employed or actively seeking employment. So each month, the Labor Department reports the unemployment rate, which is the percentage of people actively seeking employment within the entire civilian labor force. So in order to determine the unemployment rate, the Labor Department surveys 60,000 households, okay? And they do this by randomly sampling households across the country, right? Because New York's going to have a different unemployment rate than Montana, very different states. So in this case, our population would be the entire households of the United States, right? And then we pick a sample of those 60,000 households. And the data we're collecting is whether they're employed or unemployed. From that raw data, we calculate a sample statistic, and as long as our sample is representative, which the Labor Department says it is, that gives us our population parameter.